Week 7. Chiefs defeat the 49ers 28-18. Can I say it was a predictable game? Very little surprised me in this effort by the 49ers. But they disappointed and played even worse than I expected. There are all kinds of excuses to go around. Some of them are legitimate. Some of them are weak excuses. The game lived up to my preview. And I'm a broken record, but this is the same deal as the Super Bowl 58. What happened and what you had entering in this game played out. Coaching advantage, Chiefs. Better quarterback, Chiefs. Better defense, Chiefs. And on top of that, special teams, Chiefs. And it's not just the head coaching advantage for the Chiefs. It's Steve Spagnuolo owns Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan cannot figure out Steve Spagnuolo. And there's a lot to cover here, and I'm not going to go on all night. We could do an hour-long review, couldn't we? But the fact that it was the end of the first quarter and the 49ers had a 3-0 lead. For me, they lost the game right there. The fact that they did not score early and were already settling for field goals and the score was 3-0 told me they weren't going to win this game. And you saw indications, of course, earlier than that. The 49ers received the ball and they went 3-0. They went 3 and out immediately. And I know the Chiefs have a great defense. But that told you what kind of afternoon it was going to be. That as 49er fans, we were in for a long, frustrating afternoon. The Chiefs had a fake punt that the 49ers actually stopped early. But then when the 49ers stopped him, Brock Purdy immediately threw an interception. I believe it was the very next play. And as the Chiefs had the ball, Mahomes was picked. And then as you got to the end of the third quarter, it was 3-0 49ers. As the 49ers had many injuries, and it got worse as the game went on, but the Chiefs were far more creative on offense with play calling, with jet sweeps, pitch plays, and it wasn't just Mahomes being creative. I'm talking about improving out there. It was play calling too. There was a formation they had in the red zone that was sort of a full house as well. That was interesting. And the 49ers, what frustrates me is on offense, even with Kyle Shanahan, I feel that they are so boring on offense. On defense, very vanilla. Very vanilla on defense. And when you look at the defensive side of the ball, there's not enough stunts they've done. I mean, Bosa's so good with stunts, and they don't use him hardly at all with stunts. And one of the better plays he had in the game was they actually lined him up inside, more as a defensive tackle. I'm like, oh, wow, they're actually trying something different. But special teams certainly reared its ugly head with the punt return by Hardman. I mean, you're just waiting for it. It's going to happen sometimes. Some point there's going to be a terrible special teams mistake, a missed field goal, and that's another story. A missed extra point. You had the punt return by Hardman. they're going to screw something up on special teams. And at halftime, it was 14-6. You're at home, and you managed 6 points at halftime. And right before halftime, Brandon Ayuk gets hurt. And this was Brandon Ayuk's game. 2 receptions, 23 yards, and one of the few good passes that Brock Purdy made, Ayuk just flat out comes up empty. He doesn't catch the ball, and it would have been a big play. And now Ayuk's season is over. Starting the third quarter, they get an early interception off Mahomes. 49ers do go in for a touchdown, and it was 14-12. Instead of going for a 2-point conversion, Kyle Shanahan decides to kick it. And if they make the field goal, it'd be 14-13, or the extra point, it'd be 14-13. It's missed. But why was he so conservative there? Why was he so conservative? Are you going to beat the Chiefs with that kind of conservative coaching? That's going to be 14-13. You need to be aggressive. Not careless, but you need to be aggressive in order to beat them. And I heard Damon Bruce saying this in one of the shows that, he was spot on with this, that Kyle Shanahan, when he needs to be conservative, is too aggressive, and when he needs to be aggressive, he's too conservative. But there's so many problems with this that the back-breaking play of the game was the run by Mahomes, the 33-yard run. Fred Warner, of all 49ers, misses a tackle, and then Mahomes goes down the sideline, faking out 49ers, and I thought he was going to go all the way. And then the very next play, he goes straight up the middle, runs for a touchdown, and Mustafa, who was one of the only few bright spots, players who played well in this game, and this guy is chiseled and he's built like a rock for his size, and Mahomes basically just stomps on him. And you're just like, if that's not a sign of ownership, I don't know what is. Just kicked your butt. Mahomes embarrassed the 49ers on a day, and that was really the backbreaker. I mean, it was over. It was over at halftime. And the fact that it was 14-6, and then it was 14-12, and then in the fourth quarter, the 49ers were outscored 14-6. I'm just going to say a few quick positives for the 49ers. I already brought up the play of Mustafa. I thought they actually contained Chris Jones. They really did, for once. Contained Chris Jones. And George Kittle had a good game. And I will say, Jordan Mason, considering he was hurt, he played all right. Only 14 carries, 58 yards. 4.1 average. Sure, one of those runs is 26 yards, but his shoulder is injured. And he's out there doing the best he can. But that's about where the positives stop. Now, I give the Chiefs credit. The Chiefs won this game. They deserved to win this game. Better prepared. They were rested. They were coming off the bye. But the 49ers had a week and a half to get ready. Mahomes, don't look at the box score with him. Yes, it was the worst quarterback rating of his career. of any game. But man, when he had to absolutely step up and make the plays like he always seems to do, he did it. It was 16 of 27, 154 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But the 2 interceptions really weren't on him. One was a deflected pass, and another was his receiver falling down. The 49ers were fortunate to get those interceptions. Kareem Hunt, 22 carries for 78 yards, 3.5 yards a carry, but he had 2 touchdowns. He only had a long of 13, but he was always falling forward, and when the Chiefs needed to get the first downs on the ground, the 49ers could not stop him. He was very effective, especially in the fourth quarter. We talked about that. Can the 49ers actually stop the run when they need to? They couldn't. Travis Kelce was held in check. 4 receptions, 17 yards. What the Chiefs had on offense, though, was great play calling, and they have speed. And the 49ers looks very slow. And I'm not a big Grant Cohn guy, but that was one of the very first things he said, that the 49ers looked slow and old. And yeah, they look slow and they look old and tired. And they've gone through a lot of battles. They have. And they have not replenished the team like they should have, and they have. And Larry Krueger was talking about it. They've blown so many first-round picks. They burned first-round picks. Think about Trey Lance, and yet look at all the success they've had, but it's come back to finally bite them. Brock Purdy, 17 of 31, no touchdowns, 3 picks. And the last pick was, or at least I'll say the pick in the end zone, was about the worst interception I've ever seen him throw. There's some question if the interception to Bell, Ronnie Bell, was on him or Bell. Apparently Shanahan and Purdy both said it was on Purdy. George Kittle, again, was one of the only good players in the game for the 49ers. 6 receptions, 92 yards. He had a long of 41. Cowing, he had 2 receptions for 50, including a long of 41. What took them so long to use him? Besides that, there's nothing else worth mentioning on offense. I mean, I'll give Purdy a little bit of a break that in the second half of this game, Ayuk was out. Debo had to leave in the first quarter. Jennings didn't play. But some of those interceptions were just unexcusable. I mean, sure, you can say there's communication breakdowns. He wasn't on the same page as receivers. But this was probably the worst game he's played yet as a professional. Problems on... And, okay, getting back to the offense, too. Purdy playing terribly. Not really having anyone else that can effectively run the ball, a lack of running back depth for them outside of Mason Hurts. And, I know when you're looking at this, McCaffrey's out, Ayuk, Debo, Jennings. I mean, that is not the team that should be out there. But when I'm comparing that to Mahomes' targets, and I will say again, I don't think that those 2 interceptions were on Mahomes. Look at the great names that he's playing with. Noah Gray. Then he's got Xavier Worthy and Mecole Hardman. And now it looks like a Travis Kelce that's really slowing down. Not exactly great players in a supporting cast for Mahomes. Yet Mahomes went out there and did what he can only do. And that's what separates him. When he absolutely has to step up, make the big play, he does it. He does it. He did it. And even when you look at that stat line for him, in my opinion, he was still the best player on the field. And then, two, when I'm looking at his running backs, Kareem Hunt, way past his prime. Kareem Hunt. So the Chiefs improved to 6-0. And they didn't play a good game at all on offense. Yet they're 6-0. And they played a lot of close games. And they're 6-0. And they're winning with defense. And Mahomes doing what he has to win games. The 49ers are 3-4. 3-4. I mean, where do you go from here? Now that you're 3-4, you've lost Ayuk. Purdy just had the worst game of his career. Ayuk is done for the season after you just gave him that huge contract. And will he ever be as good as he was? I seriously doubt it. You're still without McCaffrey. Debo was in the hospital. It seems like he's out now. Kittle's really banged up with multiple injuries. He's still playing, and we don't know the status of Juwan Jennings. And you've got a big Sunday night football game coming up against the Cowboys. The defense is a far cry from what it used to be. It's not even close to a dominating defense. It's just an average NFL defense. They have their moments, and that's about it. Nick Bosa, he had an up and down game. I feel he had a good first half. He over pursued, wasn't as disciplined in the second half. I mean, Fred Warner had a quiet game. Fred's the best middle linebacker in football, and was really discouraging seeing him be the one who had the missed tackle on Mahomes on that 33-yard run. And you're just like, yep, that's what happens. Even your best player, probably your best player in your whole team, and the best player at his respective position in football can't even bring Mahomes down when he absolutely has to. Secondary is inconsistent, but when I get down to this game and I really boil it down, what was the biggest problem? It was not the defense. It was the offense. It was Kyle Shanahan. And when you go back and look at the Super Bowl, and I will say Super Bowls, but especially when you're going back to look at 58, the problem was not on the defense. Everyone blamed the defense and Steve Wilkes. It was Shanahan. Shanahan was the problem in his offense, not scoring touchdowns and just scoring points, period, in the Super Bowl. I mean, Shanahan's the one that needs to take responsibility and take the blame, and I'm done with him pointing the finger at someone else, and he can't win the biggest games. The Chiefs completely own the 49ers. They can't beat them. And are they going to turn this season around? I don't have a lot of hope. And, you just wonder about the first-round picks. Ricky Pearsall. He plays his first game. And you have to ask yourself, was that the best selection with your first-round pick, picking Pearsall? When you have all these other needs, you need to get better on offensive line. You need to get better on defensive line. You knew coming into this season that you're not going to have the services of Dre Greenlaw out there. You need more difference makers, and then, they need a receiver now, but he doesn't necessarily look like the answer, does he? Sure, it's one game. We'll give a guy more than one game. But you wonder what this team does with their first-round picks. Well, he's going to have to play now. Say that. But you've got a quarterback coming off his worst game. Your number one running back and the reigning offensive player of the year hasn't even stepped on the field. Your active running back is really banged up. You may be down still without your top three receivers. And you have a really banged up tight end, and your special teams is just in disarray. The 49ers own the Cowboys in the last three matchups. Yes, they've dominated the Cowboys. Last season, they dominated the Cowboys. I don't know what to expect in a 49ers Cowboys game. If you fall to 3-5, your season is over. If they go to 4-4, they have hope. But this team it feels like 2020 because of all the injuries mounting up. And you've just given away games you shouldn't. You're not doing the little things right, and the season is just unraveling. That season you had the injury, you lost Bosa, you lost Sherman for most of the year, Mostert got hurt, Garoppolo was missing games. This year, McCaffrey's been out. He may never step on the field. Ayuk is out. You were already down Greenlaw. These are huge injuries, and Trent Williams isn't playing the same either. That is what made the Super Bowl just hair-ripping last year, because you, for the most part, had your team intact, or at least the most important core players were all there. And they blew it. They squandered the opportunity again. And no, I'm not sitting here saying fire Kyle Shanahan. But why should we as a fan base have any faith that he's going to get it done in the end? Good enough to get you the Super Bowl, not good enough to win you a Super Bowl. When the pressure is on, he tightens up. Not the season we were hoping for, not the season we're expecting. But we had the Chiefs last year. We had them. And this does not appear to be the 49ers season. One trade here will not fix a team. Another trade there will not fix the team. They look tired. I mean, they were tired before the season even started. They're tired, they're old, they're injured. And this is a totally demoralizing loss because you simply cannot beat the Chiefs. You may be able to get through the NFC, but that's a tall task now because you're 3-4. Even if you do, it won't matter because you're going to have to face the Chiefs, and let's just say you get lucky and it's not the Chiefs, you're probably going to have to face the Ravens. 49ers don't know how to handle Lamar Jackson either. But even talking about Super Bowl right now seems rather silly, doesn't it? They got to get ready, and they got to get ready fast for the Cowboys and not embarrass themselves on Sunday Night Football. We've had 3 of the worst losses this season bunched together early on in the first 7 games during my time as a fan with the talent on this roster. Even the talent that still remains on this roster. The loss on the road to the Rams, the loss at home to the Cardinals, and now just getting completely outclassed by a less than Chiefs team. I mean, if you were ever going to beat them, this past Sunday was the Sunday, and they failed. Failed miserably.